What's up, everyone? Shout out to Marvin, audience member and supporter of the channel. They went ahead and put this particular tweet to my attention. Thomas Mahler, who is the CEO and creative director of Moon Game Studios, No Rest of the Wicked, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, all that stuff, he said this. He put up a poll. He said, since quite a few people are still arguing the case for exclusives, let us test the principle. How would you feel about Valve paying developers to keep their games exclusive to Steam in order to increase the value proposition of PC gaming? Would you be for it or against that? 104,000 views, results are about 2,000 votes, and 75% of people are against it. He then says, I think these numbers speak pretty clear language. If 75% of people are against exclusives on PC, I'm not sure I understand the argument for certain games to only be available on PlayStation. I'm guessing the most convincing argument is that certain first-party games shouldn't be made in the first place if there's no strong hardware sales backing that concept. But that argument doesn't really work if we're looking at the current development cost of AAA studios. If it's necessary to risk 100 to 300 million US dollars or more on a project, you're clearly not doing yourself any favors by restricting that product to only be limited to be sold to only a limited audience. Yes, I agree, and that's exactly, even PlayStation agrees. This is what I'm going to show you guys. And there are people who are going to be here talking about, exclusivity PlayStation doesn't agree with you. They don't. I mean, that's why their $300 million game is now on PC. 315 million, sorry, I messed that up. And this is exactly what we've been talking about all this while is, this stuff goes unsaid. Sony has sold 65 million PlayStation 5s globally, but Steam has 132 million monthly active users. Nintendo has sold 150 million Switch units. Xbox is at 30 million units sold. Would it even be possible to make a PS5 first-party game that could sell 15 to 20 million units? Doesn't seem likely at this point. You need to make a product that one out of three people in your entire install base purchase. That's what God of War Ragnarok did, but God of War Ragnarok was on the PS4. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 did not meet that, particular paradigm in that regard. It had to move to PC and they shortened that window. Then he said, and if you invested all the resources to make a product like that, is it really wise to not sell to the 100 plus million customers that are using other platforms, especially given that there's no certainty that PS6 will perform just as well as PS5 did? I'm sure I'm looking at it in an oversimplified way, but given that most tech companies thrive by selling as much product to as many people as possible, the argument for exclusive seems to quickly go out of the window. These are his opinions. I have maybe some aspects where I say yes, I share similar, positions. At the end of the day, I don't even need to even hold my position. I don't even need to talk about what I think. All I do is I look at the developers and I look at the companies themselves. What are they doing? How do they see exclusivity? Is it viable for them? If the answer is yes, then great. But I'm seeing PlayStation and Xbox, and it doesn't seem like it's viable for them at this moment in time. PlayStation is continuing to sell more hardware, but even they are seeing a trend. And if you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, before they even hit 65 or 70 million consoles, they already started working on when they were going to deliver this game to PC. If you get what I mean. I saw somebody saying something about Xbox. They tried to basically say that Xbox is moving its games to PlayStation because its consoles weren't selling well. Or, at this moment in time, PlayStation is selling, 70 million consoles. No, they already had the plans to do that before PlayStation reached that many units of consoles sold. So when we talk about this exclusivity thing, it's very important that we put some things into perspective. There's a video I've been wanting to make about MLB The Show, because this proves to me anyways that PlayStation is overhyped as the market leader of some sort. Nintendo is right there, and Xbox is dominating in the content piece. They have the biggest game basically every year in the world. So we can't necessarily say that, especially when we see how MLB The Show has what I think is slight similarities to EA's FIFA game. Now, when we talk about MLB The Show on PlayStation, right? We are on Xbox, and Game Pass, actually, like there's 3 iterations, I think, on Game Pass. The game, basically wants to be given a small level of caveat. There'll be people who say, "Oh, no, 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 no. The reason MLB The Show is on PlayStation is because the agreement, they basically forced PlayStation. PlayStation had no choice." I have some comments from the audience members who basically said that. They said that PlayStation had no choice in the matter. It was basically, MLB that made that particular, situation. That's why the game is no longer exclusive. Of which to that, I say that is a big fugazi, because Sony, who is supposedly the market leader, could have easily said, no, we don't want to do that. We'd prefer to go our way and make our own game. And I've always said EA did that. They parted ways with FIFA. When things were not going the way everybody liked, EA decided that they were going to part ways with World Soccer governing body FIFA after a near 3-decade partnership, and pulling the plug on one of the world's most successful video game franchises that has raked in billions of dollars in sales. EA made a significant offer to FIFA for an 8-year exclusivity period across all of FIFA's gaming and esports rights, but the soccer body was unwilling to lock up all of its gaming and eFootball rights with just one publisher, sources familiar with the matter told Reuters on Tuesday. FIFA said it will launch a new football game, video games developed by third-party studios and publishers under a similar circumstance where MLB pretty much wanted more money and was probably willing to get the game to other third-party developers. So-called market leader PlayStation could have easily said no. But instead, they were feeling the weight. The game that their developers were making weren't making money, so they let it happen. They signed that agreement and went with it. Until this day, their developers at Sony San Diego are making more money from their game because the game is on Xbox, and it's not even on PC. EA signaled months ago that the relationship was nearing the end. The company's current contract was set to expire after the Qatar World Cup, with the soccer body seeking increased revenue and EA pushing to expand FIFA brand into areas such as NFTs and highlights of real games. In my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think PlayStation has as much influence as people are making it out to seem. They're just like any other company with cutthroat business tactics. And more PlayStation games like MLB The Show will continue to make their way to other platforms when they need the money and when there's an audience there to go ahead and buy it. So all this talk about Xbox taking their games to PlayStation, and therefore Xbox is dead, is nonsense. MLB The Show proves that these companies are all looking for money and exclusivity is not working for them. And so PlayStation basically opened up the show by bringing its game here. So pretty much, if you want to say somebody capitulated, it's PlayStation who basically first capitulated to the market forces, because this game basically came first. And there is no exception that will be given to this game, because if PlayStation was so-called the market leader, they should have exercised their own powers and walked away from the deal. But they did not. They are constantly signing the deal, and the deal is going everywhere. So Thomas Mahler basically making his point in this particular conversation, to me, seemingly makes more sense, especially now that MLB The Show is probably going to be transitioning into a new console platform. They're more than likely going to go ahead and maybe cease support for the old platforms. I don't know when. I mean, they don't seem like they can. Even when the game is across the all platforms, it's still not selling as impressively. So they need the money. And, this is very obvious. They need to make more money. And PlayStation and Xbox are basically in the same place. So before anybody starts telling me, oh, well, until Spider-Man or God of War or whatever comes, it's simply because PC, Steam, is padding it for y'all. The moment Steam finally gives PlayStation the max amount of players that will ever buy their games, and they're still looking for more players to buy their games, which it seems like they will be, because so far so good, the PlayStation community has not shown that they can show up like Nintendo for PlayStation exclusives. You're going to see more and more of them on the Xbox platform. In fact, the MLB The Show was just the first start. When Kojima went in with Death Stranding, right, on Xbox, what was basically the reason, right? Why did that game go on Xbox? Well, seemingly, Kojima basically went ahead and, bought the publishing rights, which is weird Because people even question that in the Death Stranding subreddit, someone said, I don't understand the partnership Kojima and Sony have. A few questions about Death Stranding, Xbox release, and more. Right? This person said they know that Sony funded the game, but then they sold the IP publishing rights to Kojima. It's weird. So does Sony get a cut of every Xbox sale? I understand it's different publishers, but it's still the game they funded. What does that mean for Death Stranding 2? I'm assuming the same will hold true again. But again, Sony looks to be funding this game. What's the point of having a partnership and funding Kojima for his next project if there's no exclusivity? I don't get that at all. Does this mean us PlayStation gamers are getting OD? That's a Microsoft partnership, but do we know if Kojima owns the IP? Just some questions I had. Look at this. It's possible, and people are being fair. They said, for one point, the Death Stranding game uses the Guerrilla engine, the Decima engine. And it's possible they get a cut out of every sale. 2, no one knows aside from Kojima and Sony. Well, we can interpolate. They need money at least. We can know that one or both parties need the game to keep selling. And this says, if Sony helps fund DS2, there's a high chance it would have a limited time exclusivity with PlayStation. Point 4, see point 2. I just imagine Kojima Productions wanted Death Stranding to have a bigger release, especially to hype up Death Stranding 2. There's potential that Death Stranding 2 have a wide release across all platforms, but obviously nothing's confirmed. So there are 2 games that we can point to that are PlayStation-funded games that are eating money from Xbox's ecosystem. I have a third one for you. Predator Hunting Grounds. This one, the developers went ahead and got the publishing rights as well for a game that PlayStation funded. It's crazy, isn't it? The Ilphonic developers basically somehow got they got the publishing rights. And so the question is PlayStation making money from this game? The answer is possibly yes, because they spent money on the game. I don't imagine that they would just give the publishing rights and not make any money, because they're making money from MLB The Show, and they're loving it. They're launching the game every year so far on the Xbox ecosystem. So anybody who wants to basically pour sand in your eye and make it sound like it's not Spider-Man and all that stuff is simply because PlayStation has poured sand in their eye, and they can't even see what's going on. Just because the games are basically games that are in a pocket game and not necessarily the big names, it doesn't mean anything. It only means, in my eyes, that PlayStation has pretty much opened a can of worms that cannot be closed. No matter how many people try to spin the narrative and make it sound like, oh, Xbox is doing something, we couldn't be bothered. I couldn't be bothered. Anybody can probably give you that caveat, but I'm not worried about it. And then we can move on to Lego Horizon Adventures, where people are going to still go ahead and tell us, oh, well, it's not a PlayStation IP, which is nonsense, because Horizon is PlayStation's IP, and Death Stranding is PlayStation's IP, and MLB The Show is a PlayStation developed game, and they could have walked away. So no more excuses. No more excuses. Exclusivity is dead, and Thomas Mahler is onto something with his post. Thanks for watching the video. Talk to me in the comment section. Peace out.